right. Well, that's as good of an intro as any. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Doing another episode of Cooking with Baber today. We're going to be, again, sort of taking it easy a little bit, doing kind of a really simple dinner tart. It does have a little bit of pastry in it, so we're going to go ahead and get started right with that because, we needed to rest a little bit. I am going to cheat and pull a done one out of the fridge, but I want to show you guys how it's made anyways. So we're going to do this in a food processor. It's probably the easiest way to make any kind of dough. You don't need a you don't need a stand mixer or anything. You could probably do this just in a bowl with like a whisk or a potato masher or whatever. But this is going to be pretty easy. So we're going to go ahead and put a cup and a half of flour. For whatever reason, this recipe doesn't do flour by weight, which is aggravating, but alas, it works. It's not the most precise recipe for sure, but so yeah, cup and a half of flour. You do want to make sure that the butter you use for this is really cold. If I know anything about baking, it's that when you need cold butter, you really do need the cold butter, or else it'll just melt and make it a disaster. Probably the best example of that if you're making something like a croissant dough. If your butter melts, it's just gonna basically make a huge mess, and you're never gonna get anything even close to a croissant. So kept the butter in the fridge till just now. Again, really basic here. We're just going to take the butter, cut it up into little squares, and toss it in the food processor. This butter has like a weird papery thing. Let's get that off of there. If you guys didn't already see in the chat there, if you are in Grubhub Slack, feel free to ask questions in the Slack. I know it's a little bit annoying to try to log into YouTube. If you're not in Grubhub Slack, feel free to put questions in the YouTube Slack, or I can't speak words, the YouTube chat. But hopefully the Slack thing will work out and people can actually ask questions. So yeah, I'm just going to basically cut this up into little cubes. Do not at all have to be precise about this. They're all just going to get blitzed in the food processor anyways. We're just kind of helping the food processor out a little bit here. Take a little bit too long and be too uneven if we didn't do this. So go ahead and throw this in there. Get the butter off our hands. And then the only other ingredients that are in this dough are salt and water. Again, it's just a pinch of salt, so not really measuring anything here. Just doing a hefty little pinch. And then the water, again, just like the butter, you want it to be really cold. So I'm actually going to do ice water. I'm not going to actually put any of the ice in it. I'm just going to chill the water down before adding it. So before we add any of the water, let's just go ahead and pulse this a couple times. It says until it's pea-sized. It gets pretty small, a lot smaller than pea-sized really fast. So, we'll just kind of go with that. I don't know how it's supposed to actually get pea-sized, whatever. Again, not terribly precise here. Also not a huge deal. So while we're pulsing this, we're just going to go ahead and add some of that water. Again, nothing really crazy here. It says like 2 or 3 tablespoons, probably added about that. As we continue to pulse it, it will continue to get, more and more dough-like. And it says it's had enough water when you can kind of pinch it and it sticks together. So we'll just give that kind of like a little look-see here. Hopefully the camera will refocus, maybe not. There we go. So I can kind of pinch it and it kind of goes into a dough shape. I'm going to give it a couple more pulses just to bring it together a little bit more. And that's looking pretty good to me. So again, incredibly simple dough. That's pretty much all there is to it. All that's left to do is wrap it up in some plastic, throw it in the fridge, and let it rest for a little while. So we're gonna go ahead and grab it out of here. Make sure we get the dough blade or the blade out first so we don't cut ourselves. And then just kind of like gently press it into like a disc shape. So let's get that out of there. Normally I would go ahead and clean that now, but we're recording. So yeah, just press it kind of into a disc shape so you can just roll it straight away. Fold it up. And we're good. If you are cooking along, go ahead and put your oven at 400. It's pretty much what we're going to use for the whole time. No need to do any fancy convection or anything, just 400. So, like I said, we don't have quite enough time in our hour to do this whole thing from start to finish with that 20-minute rest in there. It's going to be tight enough as it is with the blind bake here. So I've already got a dough done. I did this one about maybe 45 minutes ago, so it's ready to go. Basically just going to put it on a lightly floured cutting board here. Now, I don't do a ton of pastry, so if this turns out horribly, you can all laugh at me and we can just chalk it up to me being silly. I do think because this is such an easy recipe that literally anybody can do it, even me, so we'll give it a go. Beth, in full transparency, Beth pretty much always does this part of the recipe, but we're going to try it. So I've got my lightly floured cutting board. I just lightly floured my rolling pin, which I don't think is actually a thing, but here we are. And we're just going to kind of roll it out. You do want it to be, so we're using, I think, a 10 or 11 inch with a pie, or I don't know, tart pan with a removable bottom. You want it to be fairly thin. It's certainly thin enough that it can, obviously cover the entire pan, but not so thin that it's just gonna like fall apart. So let's just keep going here. In a second, I'll take a little reference check on my pan and see how big it needs to be. You also just want to make sure it's nice and even, or at least as even as you can make it. A little bit tricky to work around this camera here, but we do. Looking pretty good. So the pan that we have, it's about yay big, and we want it to go up the sides. So still need a little bit thinner. And when rolling, it seems to just be kind of about like even pressure. You don't want to go nuts with it. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can always just use like a wine bottle or basically any, cylindrical thing. That's about all I know about baking. Reach the limits. I did make chocolate chip cookies the other day with some help. That was great. All right, so that's probably about right. We're looking at, I don't know if you can see about how thick that is. That's about the max side of the thickness. You could certainly go thinner. I am a little bit nervous about transferring this, so we'll see how that goes. So you don't need to prep the pan at all. Hopefully we can get this all up in one nice piece here. Again, if you're just joining us and you want to chat along with the video, you can check out the link that should be there to get to the Slack. Oh yeah, here we go. So I believe there are some tricks to properly sizing this dough in here, but I don't know them. So we're just going to try this method of just kind of going around the outside. Seems to be working okay. And then you might have heard me a minute ago talk about blind baking. Blind baking is basically where we're going to cook this just with the dough and with nothing in it. It's just going to kind of let the dough kind of set up. The filling for this is a little bit wet, so if we just tried to cook it like a regular pie, it would probably just kind of ruin the bottom. You'd have a soggy bottom, as Mary Berry or whoever the Great British Baking Show woman would say. Nobody wants that. So blind baking lets you just cook off the pie dough, and then the actual, once you've added the filling, you don't actually have to cook it for very long. So then, now that I've got the dough kind of pushed up against the edges. I'm just going to kind of trim off the excess because we won't need that. I guess you could use it for something. I'm not going to be using it for anything. It's just going to go in the compost. So again, we need to kind of get this in the oven, but this is looking really nice. The trick to blind baking is that you do need to weigh it down. You can buy fancy pie weights, or you can just use like some dried beans or lentils or whatever, which is what we're going to use. So we're going to take some parchment. Actually, I think we want to dock this first. So again, you can use a fancy docking thing or just poke it with a fork. This is just going to allow the air or the steam to escape so it doesn't puff up. So the combination of this and the beans or the lentils or whatever, or the pie weights is what's going to keep it nice and flat. I don't think you have to dock the sides, but it's probably too much docking, but it looks something like that. Again, I'm not a baker. This is all kind of new to me. We're giving it a whirl. All right, so put the parchment in there. I got my lentils somewhere. Here they are. And you can reuse these, obviously. Like, you just take them out and store them, and they're good for a long time. Once you've baked them, you probably don't ever actually want to like cook them. Like, these are kind of, now you're just like baking lentils forever. But lentils are cheap, so not a big deal. And again, I'm just going to kind of try to fill up this pie shell as much as I can to kind of keep it in the right shape. And then just because I'm using our toaster oven, I'm going to go ahead and just trim the edges of this, as just roughly. All right, easiest dough ever. So again, just give it one last little push, really fill it out, and that's ready to go in the oven, which again, 400 degrees. And we're gonna go 20 minutes on that. Definitely want to set a timer. No need to forget. 20 minutes is a little bit too long to kind of mentally keep track of. So that is now pretty much done. So we'll go ahead and work on the filling. The filling is, again, really, really simple. It's just a couple of ingredients. So we've got some onion, some sausage, some kale, a little bit of like a soft cheese, so like a ricotta or goat or feta, a little bit of basil, some egg to kind of bind it together, salt, pepper, and that's pretty much it. It's all totally modular. Like if you wanted to use chard instead of kale, obviously you're going to need a little bit more. You're going to cook it down. It's going to cook a lot faster, but totally fine. You can omit the sausage if you want to. You can do, like I said, any one of the cheeses you want, or no cheese, or multiple cheeses. It's a tart. You kind of just like do whatever you want with it, just like a fruit tart where you could use any different combination of fruits. So let's go ahead and get to it. I'm just going to clean up my knife here. It had all the butter on it. And again, there's not going to be anything fancy in terms of the cooking. We're basically just going to saute everything pretty much separately, but in an order that kind of makes sense, where we're going to start with the aromatics, then do the meat, and then kind of finish with the veggies to kind of clean up the meat fond, or the burny bits that end up on the bottom. As usual, I'm going to be a little bit lazy with my garlic, so I know I'm going to need some garlic later. So let's see, I got a couple of cloves left in this bag. Go ahead and throw those in there. Pop open a new bag. Again, I'm using this pre-peeled garlic because I use a ton of garlic and I just can't be bothered to spend all the extra time peeling it. It lasts me long enough. Most of the time it doesn't go bad. So I've got a lot of garlic in here, probably too much, but again, it's hard to go too much on the garlic. We are now done with this, so we can unplug it, get it out of here. Make a giant mess in the kitchen, check. Haven't seen anybody post anything in a Slack. Again, if you want to check out the Slack for questions or anything, I'll just see if anybody's here in the YouTube now. No, okay, well, that's fine. Sweet. All right, so I'm gonna give this a quick blend. Excellent. So again, just way easier than sitting here and chopping it. Could totally do that by hand, just being lazy. Then the onion, so standard onion chopping procedures apply. Cut this end off, cut it through end to end the other way, peel off the outside, hope everybody's doing all right today. If you haven't had a chance, check out the new Run the Jewels album and you're a fan of rap and or hip hop and or delightful music, please do that. Excellent album. Would be playing it right now, except maybe not work appropriate, and also YouTube probably wouldn't let me keep the audio on the video, but feel free to mute me and listen to that instead and just watch me cook. I don't care. Anyways, again, standard chopping procedure. Once you peel it, do that parallel to the cutting board slice, then perpendicular to the root end slices, then these parallel to the root end slices, clean up the end. All right. So I think I could go ahead and prep the kale now, but I'm going to have some time while the onions cook, so we're going to go ahead and do that sort of on the fly. Just reduce the overall time a little bit. Cool. So let's go ahead and get our pan on. We're going to start off with a little combination oil and butter. No really great reason for that other than what the recipe says, and also butter's delicious, oil's delicious. I'm here for it. So a little bit of olive oil. A little bit of butter. I'll probably have butter over there. We'll just use that. Whoa. All right. Do a little cleanup while that heats up. All right. It's doing its thing. Quite hot. Go ahead and get those onions in there. A lot of recipes start with the garlic. You can totally do that. It lets you get that nice, all the energy in the pot going into the garlic, but sometimes you just don't want the pressure of having to not burn it. So do the garlic second. That's what we're gonna do here. So go ahead and get most of that garlic out of there. I'm gonna leave a little bit because the rest of it's going into our salad dressing. So I'll just leave like that much in there. Should be enough. So one of my pet peeves about recipes is when they're like, and then in 5 minutes, caramelize the onions. It's not a thing that can happen. You can't caramelize onions in 5 minutes. This recipe thankfully doesn't make that irritating mistake. It just says saute the onions for a couple minutes until they're, transparent and starting to turn light brown, which is realistically what's actually going to happen. Charlie, could you not, please? All right, so added a little bit of salt, which will help break down the onions a little bit, pull some of the liquid out of them, help it cook off a little bit faster. But again, we're just gonna kind of let this do its thing. So while that's cooking, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and prep the kale. So again, nothing really fancy here. We're just gonna basically strip the leaves from the stems and then chop them up. So not any real trick to that other than like just doing them one at a time. Kind of grabbing the leaf sort of near the base and pulling until you have just the stem that's left over, and then just repeat. So the thicker the stems, the easier this is to do. It's a lot more difficult with something like chard, where the stems kind of get a little wispy. But especially with this like big dino kale, it's pretty foolproof. I love the you see like the infomercials for like the combs that like supposedly let you like do this somehow better or faster than just using your hands. It's amazing. Really must be revolutionary. Anyways, I know Caitlin. I don't. So Caitlin wants to know if I ever cook with do I ever cook with unsalted butter? I always cook with unsalted butter. Pretty much the only thing I ever use salted butter for is like just putting on bread. Like if I have like some really fancy butter, it's almost always going to be salted. But I just find that it's too easy to screw up a dish with salted butter. Like if you've already got the salt levels right where you want it and you just want to finish with a little pat of butter, sometimes it'll push the salt over the edge, and I don't need that. If I need to add more salt, I'll just add more salt. It is super delicious on bread though. Salted butter certainly has a place. Also, you pretty much never use salted butter for baking. I know Joe Mann will disagree with me on this, but it again just makes it really easy to screw the recipe up and add too much salt, which most of the time can be okay. It's not going to be like inedibly salty if you just use salted butter all the time. But in some cases, you'll have it just be a little bit uncomfortably salty, which, you don't really need. Don't need that stress in your life. Don't do that to yourself. There's already enough stuff going on. All right, this pan got a little bit too hot, so we're going to turn this down. I didn't really want this to get this brown, but it's not a problem. Like, I just wasn't paying attention. But like, so you can see what I'm talking about. So we've got a lot of browning happening, especially in this kind of edge here. Again, it's not a big deal. It's totally going to be fine. But the recipe says to take the onions out. I think I'm going to leave them in. I kind of want to get them a little bit more caramelized, or a little bit more brown. They're not going to be caramelized for about 45 minutes. So here I've got some sausage. These are just cased sausages. Pretty much not much to do here. Just going to take it, just split the casing all the way down, and then just kind of pop it right off of there. You can certainly buy just loose sausage. It's absolutely fine. They just didn't have any at the butcher, so this is what we went with. We did one hot, one sweet. You can do whatever combination makes you happy. And again, these are pork sausages. You can use chicken sausages or turkey sausages or literally whatever you want. Venison, bear, goat, monkey. No, maybe not. You find a nice bat sausage. Could be tasty. All right, so just kind of break this sausage up. The goal is to get it about as fine as you can. This sausage, this is whole food sausage, and they like to do a really coarse grind for their sausages, which is, it's not a problem. It's just, it makes it really difficult sometimes to break it down into like little tiny pieces. You just have to put a little bit more effort into it. A lot of times when you buy like uncased sausage, it is a much finer grind. You can also, if you have a good relationship with your butcher, you can ask them to grind stuff for you, the same way that you can ask them for, specialty cuts or to, special order something for you. It's definitely worth becoming friends with your butcher. I know it can be difficult, like if you're shopping at a big grocery store and you know most of the stuff. Hey, and Charlie's eating stuff out of the compost. That's fine. Okay, all right, having a good time over here. Anyways, yeah, I mean, if you can make friends with them, they'll definitely, you know, get you the nicer cuts, get stuff out of the back for you if they don't have it in the case. You just have to be nice and, you know, express an interest in the hard work they're putting in. And you know, being a butcher can be pretty challenging, especially butchers that are actually doing like meat fabrication when they're using like the big table saws that are, you know, basically capable of cutting you in half because that's what they're doing. Alright, so this is starting to look pretty good. Once this is done, we are going to remove this because we don't want to like go nuts on the sausage because it's also going to get some time in the oven after this. So basically just trying to put a little brown on it. So I could probably just leave it alone and let it do its thing now. So we've got the kale ready. Once the kale is in the pan, I'll go ahead and prep the basil. Once we do that, we're getting pretty close to the end here in terms of the prep that we need to do. This is going to come out. It's going to go in a bowl. We're going to cook the. I guess I could cut this kale down a little bit because we don't need it to be quite as mondo leaf size as this. Yeah, nothing fancy here. We're just going to kind of like try to reduce it in size a little bit. We don't have to like make it itty bitty tiny pieces. We just don't want to have like entire leaves. Yeah, my butcher in Somerville is called MF Duloc, and they're amazing. They do a meat share that's phenomenal. You pick up your meat once a month, like I think it's like $65 or something, and you get like $80-ish worth of meat, and it's always phenomenal. Most of the stuff that they give me, I just do salt, pepper, and heat, and it's incredible. Every now and again, I'll do like a braise or stew or something with it, and oh man, their meat is just so freaking good. It's definitely expensive, but like they have really great relationships with local farms, and you can absolutely taste the difference. There's a good chicken or poultry shop called Mayflower Poultry in Cambridge as well. Other specialty meat shops are Saviners? Is that right? Maybe Saviners. I don't know. There's a bunch of good shops around, and like honestly, like the meat at Whole Foods can be pretty good. Especially if you know what to look for. Like there are plenty of videos online for like picking out good cuts of meat. Most of the time, what you want is just like the cuts that have the most marbling, so like the most kind of like white, intramuscular fat, and then the least amount of just like crappy looking parts. I don't know how to describe it. Like you can just get an eye for it over time. If you're not used to picking out meat, you just got to do it more. All right, so that's looking pretty done. I'll go ahead and get that out of there. You don't need to be too crazy about getting everything because it's all going to the same place. So then go ahead and get our kale in here. And this we are going to cook with some white wine, which I think I have. Yes, excellent. This is a Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, a little bit sweeter than I want, but it's fine. Go ahead and use the rest of that bottle. Excellent. Using stuff up. I don't know what that was from. It was nice though. I want more wine. Almost 5 o'clock, right? Yeah. Okay. So kind of let that just steam a little bit. We can actually turn the heat back up. Not really too concerned. Give our cutting board a little wipe down. And then we'll go ahead and do our basil. So again, nothing too fancy here. We'll go ahead and use all of this. I'd hate to hate to waste it, and I can't think of what I'm going to be using this for next, and it's actually not that much basil, so I mean, just kidding. This is too much basil, but it's fine. It's going to be great. And if the worst thing about this dish is that it's too basil-y, well, you know what? Learn for next time. So again, nothing fancy. Just going to kind of roll it up into a bundle and then slice it. If I would did that a little bit more carefully, that would be a more proper, like, sort of chiffonade. Yeah, that's a pretty sizable amount of basil. I might reserve some of that to sprinkle on top. We'll see. Really nice looking basil. Alright, so there's a little bit of fat that's sort of solidified or congealed in the bottom here. I'm just going to kind of pour it back in. Get that flavor in there. Again, it's only going to the same place, so it doesn't really matter, but it'll just help it cook a little faster. And like I mentioned, this kale doesn't really cook down as much as like a chard will, but it's still going to cook down a decent amount. Yeah, Joe, MF Duloc is my jam. And if you still have Level Up credit, they definitely still take Level Up. I believe they still have a loyalty program too. So like, as you're going through the meat club, you continue to kind of earn rewards. All right, how's our tart doing? Got a minute and change. Cool. So once that timer's up, we're gonna try to carefully take the lentils out and then put it back in for another 5 minutes. And then it's gonna be ready to put the filling in. So we're doing really amazing on time. All that's left to do is finish cooking this, combine it, add the ricotta and the egg and the basil, mix it up, pop it into the tart as soon as it's done, and make our salad dressing. And we're gonna probably have a little extra time to hang out, ask questions, clean up, or just end early because, you know, everybody needs a little bit of a break. So, oh, look who's home. Hello. I think I'm doing this mostly okay. I realize that you always do the tart. I was supposed to cover this. I didn't. It's fine. I kind of wanted to cook the wine off a bit anyways, so all good. All right, so let's get this out of here. Is there a trick for getting these lentils out of this pan without spilling them absolutely all over the place?
No.
Yeah, I thought about that as I was cutting it. Yeah, that was the reasoning. Where's the big metal bowl? Oh, there it is. All right. Well, what if I just dump it? I feel like that worked really well. All right. So bam. And now look, we have a reusable little thing. Inventing new techniques over here. Oh, this is getting a little sizzly. I like it. I like it. What's going on, Ellie? I should probably season this, huh? I didn't season the sausage because sausage usually has a decent amount of salt in it. But again, when we combine everything, we'll give it a taste. I'm going to cook this till it's pretty much dry. And I haven't added any pepper whatsoever to any of this, so we'll go ahead and get some pepper going. Cool. Mold-covered pork. Oh no, Joe. Pork butt bone. Just the bone, or like, is there actually pork on it? Because if it's just a pork bone, please throw it away. Don't do anything with it. If it's pork on a bone and it's also moldy, I think you just have to throw it away. I don't know why I asked if there was meat on it or not because it doesn't change the answer. Yeah, sorry. If it's moldy, almost always you want to throw it away, unless that thing came with mold and was supposed to have mold, like fancy cheese with the moldy rind. Uh, Moldy meat is never good. And there's like pretty much no salvaging it. Like you really don't want to screw around with bad meat. Okay, so this is looking pretty dry. I think it's just about ready to come off. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so. All right. We don't need this. We don't need this. If anybody needs sage, please come get some from my house. We have too much. All right, so this is done. Get this out of here. All right, so just as like a little status check, this is what we're working with right now. There we go. So we'll just go ahead and mix this together. And again, it's pretty dry at this point. The only like moisture is mostly like the fat from the butter, oil, and the sausage, which is what we're looking for. Go ahead and give this a taste to adjust for salt and pepper. That's nice. A little bit more pepper. Then let's go ahead and add the ricotta. I got some real fancy ricotta because I was feeling fancy. Egg was the other thing I needed. Just one egg, which we're going to wait to add until we're satisfied with the seasoning, and then add a little bit more salt to make up for the egg. So how much ricotta does this call for? I forget. Quarter cup. Yeah, it doesn't seem like enough. We're going to add more than that. So I got this Maplebrook ricotta. It's really nice. How hot is this? Too hot. I don't actually need this over here anymore. Seems challenging to move it though. Where could I put that? Can I put it over here? Sure. What could go wrong? Alright, so now we could do this here. Yeah. Love it. Alright, let's add some of the basil. Boom. A lot of basil. Let's add some ricotta. I guess I do kind of need to get it in the fridge, huh? Or in the oven. Cool. So it's definitely more than a quarter cup, but again, feeling pretty good about it. That's it. So it's looking nice and combined. Get our tart out of the oven. I think I'm okay. It's actually gonna be pretty close because this has to bake for like 20 minutes, right? 10 to 15 it says, I guess. All right. Oh my god, it's so good. A little bit more salt. A little bit more pepper. Let's get the egg in there. I always crack eggs on a flat surface because it makes it less likely to get shell in it. Because the edges of stuff tend to push the shell in, which means that you get more shell in your stuff, and nobody likes that. So let's mix that egg in there. Live dangerously. Take another bite. I think it tastes pretty good, so I'm not gonna do that. I'll show you filling this, even though I'd probably rather just fill it over here, but it's fine. This is what it's looking like. Looking quite beautiful. It's feeling cooked, but not done. Is this, do you think this is done enough? Did I make this too thick? It did kind of slump down the sides a little bit.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Yeah? You think it's done? It's soft.
I think it's okay.
Okay. So then, nothing really to this, just kind of pour it into the center. And then spread it all around. All right. Put that last little bit in there. All right. Pop it back in the oven. Cool. So that is now done. Delicious. So all it's left to do is wait for that to be finished, and we'll make a nice little salad to go alongside it. Probably the simplest, maybe not the simplest, because you know balsamic and olive oil is pretty darn simple, but maybe the one tier up from balsamic and olive oil dressing that we're gonna make now. So we've already got our garlic in there. Now we're gonna go. Ellie, what's going on? Now we're gonna go Dijon, which is gonna be our emulsifier. Emulsifier is basically just like what's gonna let our oil suspend in the water or vinegar in this case. So not very much, just like a little. That's probably not quite enough. Maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe like a teaspoon and a half or so. We're not really using it for the flavor, more just the emulsification properties. So then I'm using this Cressy vinegar. This is like a pretty standard vinegar in Switzerland, but it's kind of hard to get in the US. But you can use any kind of fancy white-ish vinegar. So this one's like an herbal vinegar. It's really, really delicious. It's great for salad dressings. Usually you do like a 1 to 3 vinegar to oil ratio. That's like the traditional kind of salad dressing ratio. I like to do more like 1 to 2. And this dressing will keep for a good while in the fridge. So you know you can definitely make more than you need, and then just kind of use it as you go. I do want to add some salt and pepper here. The salt will help emulsify it. Go. And then I'm not doing anything else for this salad. It's literally just going to be we've got some baby spring mix, and we're going to put this dressing on it, and it's going to be awesome. Just a simple vinaigrette. And again, you could totally do this with just like a bowl and a whisk or a bowl and a fork if you were really feeling up to it. You can do it in a blender. I love this little hand blender though, it's great.
So you're basically just going to keep going until it looks pretty much homogeneous. All the oil is incorporated.
Yeah, that's probably good. That's what we're working with. Ooh. So it does look a little bit thin. I'm going to add a little bit more oil. Maybe a little bit more mustard if that doesn't pick it up. Okay. Yeah, maybe a little bit more mustard. Now, because there's no stabilizers in this, if you do put it in the fridge, you will have to kind of give it a little whisk to bring it back. So it's still a little bit thin. Not really sure what's going on with that. So normally when I try dressings, like to do it on the greens themselves, because it's the best way to kind of like taste what it's actually going to taste like. Tastes fine. Not sure why it's not emulsifying. Got the right ratio. Whatever. It's gonna be great. So yeah, that's my simple vinaigrette. Aggressive whisking could totally have the same effect. You know, it's more about the proportions than about the whisking. Like if this, again, I'm not really sure why this isn't emulsifying. It could be anything. Could be that I forgot to put something in here, but I don't think that's true. Anyways, yeah, no, you could totally do it with a whisk. It probably would take a little bit longer, you know, because you do have to kind of go to town on a little bit, but it's not nearly as bad as like trying to do like a hollandaise or like a, you know, another one of the like wacky emulsified sauce things. Okay, so a little bit under 10 minutes left on the tart. Yeah, I think that is, I guess I probably had enough time to do like a beverage. Is there something that I could do? I could open a bottle of wine. That's pretty difficult. Can make a totally doesn't go with it margarita. Could pour some bourbon over some ice. Yeah, these are all pretty good options. I think what I'm going to do though is just drink a beer. Where's my thing? Oh, my coaster is missing. Sad. All right, so I'm gonna check the YouTube thing if there's anybody talking over here. Oh, Figs, you made the ceviche. Oh no, that's not you. Figs being Figs. My wife and I made your ceviche last night. It was fantastic. Oh, this is Figs' little brother. Ah, excellent. Well, I'm really glad that you enjoyed that. I love that ceviche. And again, like most of these recipes that I've been making, like you can totally make them your own. Like you could do just shrimp. You could do, you know, any almost any white fish that you want. It's, you know, all these recipes. Like if you don't like kale, don't use kale. Oh no, what happened to my camera here? Huh? Is that everything working? Is everything okay? Oh yeah, everything's fine. Everything's great. Everything's dandy. Could one use that filling for raviolis? Probably. It might be. I don't know. Give it a try. I would probably do it definitely with a finer sausage. The big chunks are going to be a little bit awkward. But yeah, I mean, absolutely give that a shot. Sounds delicious. Okay, so I have kind of run out of the normal things that I make. So I'm definitely open to suggestions if folks have things that they, you know, want to see or, you know, are interested in, or other, like, there are obviously tons of world cuisines that I haven't, like, really touched on at all. And I'd be totally down to, like, try something I've never made before. If we wanted to do, like, I don't know, Nepalese food or Laotian food. Although I guess I've made tea leaf salad, which is sort of, I think that's, no, I don't know. That's something else. That's, I can't remember off the top of my head. Beth, where's tea leaf salad from? Burma, that's right. Burmese food. We could do tea leaf salad. That could be really tasty. Although the ingredients for that are a little bit annoying to find. You got to get the fermented tea leaves. We could do Fried fish tacos. We could do. I'm making my favorite like tuna bowls tomorrow night for dinner, but I would love to do that as one of the shows. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys want to see? This is great. Getting to clean up. And we could go back to basics. We could do like a roasted chicken and some hummus, and I don't know. Well, that's why it's like one of like 3 or 4 things that you would do. Like I think the day that I did the roasted chicken, that was my first demo ever, and it was the roasted chicken. It was hummus. It was like a primer on like grocery store shopping and like spice rack stocking, and we could go wild and do like a baked episode and do like something baked. I don't know. Like a baked good? Yeah, baking with Baber. Totally. Hi. Excuse me. Hello. Excuse me. Hello. Look, it's all the people. Oh, a brunch edition. Ooh, yeah. That sounds great. We could definitely do like eggs Benedict, hash browns, little maybe like a Bloody Mary. I mean, I don't know. It's not that difficult. I just am very particular about them. I'm talking about Bloody Marys all day. Yeah, brunch edition. That sounds amazing. Although, would I do it like Thursday at 4, or would I do it like brunch time? Because brunch time seems more appropriate. Yeah, I know. Is it dinner time for you? Are you hungry for some snacks? Do you want to try some basil? Basil. No? Not good? You don't like that? Maybe? Yeah, no, I can take that back. Thank you. Bone-in pork chops. Could definitely do that. So, buttermilk pancakes could do. Beth would really enjoy that, I think. Buttermilk pancakes. We could explore southern food a little bit more. We could make like some biscuits, and I really wanted to do like a barbecue edition, but like it'll be basically like either look, this is where the food would go into the smoker, or oh look, the food came out of the smoker, which isn't as exciting. And if I did like an all-day episode, that would be difficult. Hi. Hello. Are you ready for dinner? Is it dinner time? Oh, you have basil on your face. Oops. Sorry, baby. Ellie, what do you want? You just want like bananas all day? Maybe some pasta? We could do another pasta. I could do the stupid New York Times lasagna, and it would just be a 3-hour episode. That'd be great. 8-hour live stream of the meat smoking? Yes. All time is brunch time? That is factual. All right, what kind of time are we looking on the tart? 2 minutes. It's looking nice. Looking good. What's that?
Where's the bread?
The Iggy's bread? It's still over here. She's like, give me the food. All I want is the food. Give me the loot. Yeah. What about some ricotta? What about a little ricotta cheese? No. That's tasty, right? Yeah, right? See? Get a little more of that. Yeah. It wouldn't, like, it's usually thicker than this, right? Give it a little twirly whirly. Oh, that's almost certainly unplugged. Do you have a backup plan?
Sorry. Now you got her
well,
all jazzed up for ricotta.
Well, I'm sorry. There's more ricotta. I'm done using it. Charlie ate some sausage casings out of the compost. So that was a fun little treat. Did you like cookie dough? Did you eat that whole bowl of cookie dough? Oh God. Okay, well this is almost out of the oven. Sorry for this like weird interlude here of just like spouting off random dishes. What's that?
Where's the salad?
Oh, it's here. I was just gonna kind of like. I mean, I made it. Like, all I have to do is dress it, you know. Not like the most fascinating thing ever. So, no, I was literally just putting salad dressing on it. Did you want like some? Is this like done? I should have convectioned it. What do you think?
It's okay. I mean, it's more just to like heat it all up.
Yeah.
You could broil it.
Yep, that's a great idea. Except how much time is left? 2 minutes? No. There's no time. One minute of broiling time.
It's like Top Chef.
Ah! Yeah, right? Heard.
3 seconds.
Could I like run into somebody else in the kitchen maybe? And then like spill a pan on the ground, dunk something into the deep fryer. What? Oh my God. How did that happen? Oh jeez. Well, if you wash them, they should be fine, right?
Yeah, I'm not concerned.
A little blueberry down action. Well, I just don't want to step on them.
It's a good thing. There's one that got stepped on already.
How did that happen? Jeez Louise. Jeez Louise.
How is this affecting your time?
You know, it's pretty good. Pretty good for it. Yeah. I didn't really change anything at all, so it's fine. Alright, so this is always kind of tricky to get off of here. Let's do this is definitely the most challenging part. So there we go. And let's get that. Bam. All right. Oh, it's so wet on the inside. Look at that. Definitely was not done. Well, this could have used some more time. We are now out of time. I will post a picture of what it looks like when it's actually done in Slack, but thanks for joining. Hope you guys had a good time. See you next time.